We are Tracker Radio, your number one online talk radio station.
I'm sitting wondering if you're here with me.
We educate, entertain, inform, and inspire you. Follow us everywhere on social media at the Tracker Radio. Tracker Radio, keeping you on track with talk that matters.
Roses are red, the sky is blue, but Tracker Radio is B. Good evening and welcome to today's edition of the program, Flipping Chapters. My name is Praise Obari-Berin, and this is the radio that keeps you on track with talk that matters. I welcome you to today's episode of the program, Flipping Chapters, where we're going to be flipping through the pages of Tobi Lover's short story titled, When a Man Wants. He has been waiting for the morning for so long that he barely believed his eyes when the sharp shadows cast by the street lamps through the metallic blinds start to fade, mixed with the onset of daylight. Soon he could hear a chorus of birds breaking the drown of the traffic in the city. He knew it was too early, but he has waited for this day for so long. He has trained for it for years, and now it has finally come. He stood up and touched his face, which was still wrapped up in layers of bandages, except for his two eyes and his nose, which he was told he needed to be quite careful with. I can see that someone is excited for today. He stared slowly as Joe came in. His grey hair shone in the stream of sunlight that penetrated into the room through the translucent glasses of the wall. He nodded slightly as his lips were all tied up too. Joe smiled, and dropping his notes on the stool, he went to the window to drop the curtain apart a little wilder, causing the man lying down to squint his eyes. "How are you doing today, buddy?" Joe asked, taking a pen from his breast pocket and advanced towards the man lying down. He nodded. Joe pulled down the skin below his eyes and then flashed the tiny torch in his hand into his light. He studied the reaction of his pupils and then did the same to the other. As Joe did this, the heart of the man lying down was beating faster and faster. He silently prayed that the old doctor could not change his mind about the "Well, I guess we are good to go, Joe." Joe declared, and putting the torch in the pocket again. He held the pen with his lips and came behind the stretcher where the man was lying. As he lay carefully, with his heart beating steadily and excitedly, he could feel Joe's trembling hands pulling the tubes and cords and wires and all other things that were attached to the big machine behind him. Just as this was done, he heaved a sigh of relief. Next, Joe began to peel the layers of bandages off one by one, starting from the back of his head and then unwrapping it carefully from his face. The man watched as Joe's hands went from right to left, his eyes darting at the movement of the whole process. Then Joe stopped and was walking away. At first, the man was confused. Did Joe change his mind? Would he not set him loose today? As he thought all this, he could feel cold air on his face, and that was when he realized that his face was freed. He was freed. He gasped in excitement as he took his trembling hand to his face, touching his skin, his nose, his lips. Joe came in holding a very big mirror in his hand, which he carefully set before him. The man sat upright, slowly but steadily, so he could see his reflection. At first, everything was blurry, but then he saw the man he was. The scratch that he had seen in the mirror many months back were gone. His face was perfect, smooth, could be called beautiful in a woman, but yet so unfamiliar. "Are you okay, buddy?" Joe asked quietly. The man nodded and sighed painfully as he touched his lips and his prominent jaws. Joe had fixed him. He looked at the old man. He desperately wanted to say something to thank him for his love and for his support and for everything, but his tongue felt so heavy he could barely move them. So he gave up, but only took Joe's hands into his, squeezing it so hard and staring deeply into his eyes. "You are welcome, son. Do not worry about your speech. Your body is still in a great shock, but you're healing faster, so it will come slowly. Do not put pressure into it, okay?" The man nodded. "So now that you're here, we need to set you up. Find a name to be calling you for now and..." "Hi, Daddy." The two men turned towards the entrance as the owner of the voice came in. "Oh, Lisa, darling, how are you?" The lady walked in confidently, her long coily brown hair falling in soft layers around her bare shoulders as she unpinned them from her head. She seemed like a woman who knew the effect her beauty had on men, and she wasted no time in showing it off. Her skin was flawless and her nails were beautifully manicured. She embraced her father, kissing him on the left cheek before finally seeing the man, and she shrank back immediately. "Jesus Christ! What is that?" she shouted. "Daddy, give him some clothes. I am so tired of seeing him naked. It was okay when he was unconscious, but now he is awake." "Oh!" At first, the young man was startled. He was confused, but when Joe laughed at and threw him a blanket, that was when he realized he had been naked all the while. If there was anything more than embarrassing, that was how he felt right now. He could barely look at the lady as he quickly covered his nakedness. Joe was laughing so hard at the both of them. "It's not funny, Dad," the lady said, punching his father on the arm. "Sorry, girl. Buddy, this is my one and only daughter and child, Lisa. She works with me." The poor young man was still embarrassed, so he quickly nodded at her and looked away. Holding the blanket firmly to his chest, the lady smiled and moved closer to him. "It's okay. I have seen plenty. I work here with my father, so your birth is forgotten." The man nodded. Unable to look at her, this was more than he could handle. "Is he still having speech problems?" she asked the father as she studied the man. "Yes," Joe replied, taking off the glasses. "It is just a temporary thing, right, father?" Joe nodded. "So, I came up with a name," she continued. "Vincent. We will call you Vin for short." The man stared at her at last and then at Joe. Then he was beginning to relax. He managed to smile and then nodded. "Well then, hello, Vincent. I hope you're ready for a new life." Tune in next week for another episode of the program Flipping Chapters. I remain Praise or Barry Bearing. You can follow us on our social media handles at Tracker Radio on Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, at Tracker Radio. Until next week, when we meet again, you know what to do. Stay locked down on Tracker Radio, the radio that keeps you on track with talks that matters.
Tracker Radio, keeping you on track with talk that matters.